Today's topic, as I told you all, it's tuberculosis. Okay, we'll be doing. It is one of the airborne diseases, and tuberculosis, as we all know, the causative organism is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and there are many other species which cause tuberculosis. Okay, so Mycobacterium tuberculosis was first found out by Robert Koch. I hope you all know this. Robert Koch in 1882. Okay, so and the other species of Mycobacterium are Mycobacterium africanum, Mycobacterium microti, Mycobacterium leprae, Mycobacterium avium, Mycobacterium asiaticum. And the Mycobacterium tuberculosis complex is, it has Mycobacterium africanum, Mycobacterium bovis, Mycobacterium caneti, and microti. Okay, so these are the different species of Mycobacterium, and Mycobacterium tuberculosis mainly causing tuberculosis. Okay, found out by Robert Koch in 1882. So it is, as we all know, it is widely spread throughout the world, mostly called as the disease of poor countries. Okay, it is called as disease of poor countries or underdeveloped countries because as it spreads through air, it is an airborne infection, and wherever there is no proper sanitation or no proper hygiene is not maintained, so in those regions it spreads faster. As we know, it is contagious. We know it is contagious. So wherever those areas where it is not, cleanliness is not maintained, hygiene is not maintained, proper sanitation is not maintained, there the chances of spreading tuberculosis are more. And that is why it is more in the Asian countries, African countries, and India and Asian countries. It is more widely spread because of these reasons. And as it is contagious, the poor underdeveloped places, they have more chances of spreading tuberculosis. Okay, so it can affect almost any part of the body, but it mainly infects the lungs. And the word tubercle means round nodule swelling, and osis means the condition. So it is a Latin word tubercle, which means a nodule formation. Round nodule formation and swelling is there, and oasis means condition. Okay, so if when tuberculosis occurs in human beings, it is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is the species which is responsible. And then when it is in animals, it is Mycobacterium bovis. Okay, the strain is Mycobacterium bovis when it is in animals. So as we all know, it is gram positive, obligate anaerobe, non-spore forming, non-motile rods, and mesophilic 0.2 to 0.6 to 4 mu m will be the dimensions mostly. The generation time is very slow. It takes 15 to 20 hours. And if you're doing laboratory culture for with LJ medium, it takes almost 3 weeks. Then lipid-rich cell wall contains mycolic acid. So this species of Mycobacterium is different from other bacteria because it has a waxy coating over the cell wall. It has a peculiar waxy coating over the cell wall, which is called as mycolic acid. Okay, this is present only in case of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So this is how it is differentiated from your routine bacteria to this. And to stain Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that is why do we do acid fast staining. We do acid fast staining to identify Mycobacterium, because the cell wall is made up, has a coating of waxy coating of mycolic acid, and it doesn't allow the penetration of any other stain into it. So responsible for many of the bacterium's character properties, acid fast, as I told you all, and confers resistant to detergents and antibacterials. Okay, so the reason you cannot kill the bacteria easily is because of this waxy mycolic acid coating. Hmm? So there are different types of my tuberculosis infection. It can be pulmonary tuberculosis infection. It can be extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Or okay. So when it is said that pulmonary, it is related to the pulmonary organs of the body. And when it is said extra pulmonary tuberculosis means it has affected some other part of your body. Okay. So here is a list of those extra pulmonary organs which it can affect. It can affect your lymph node. It can be pleural TB. It can be TB of upper respiratory tract. It can be skeletal TB. Okay, when it affects your bones, it can be skeletal TB, it can be genitourinary TB, it can be miliary TB, it can be pericardial TB, then it can be gastrointestinal. Sometimes it is TB of the intestines. So it is gastrointestinal TB. Then tuberculous meningitis, I have discussed before. Meningitis, meninges is the meninges is the covering of your brain. Okay, meninges present in your brain. So when it affects the brain covering meninges, it is called as tuberculous meningitis. Okay, then other forms are also there which are not much common, but these are the main organs which can be affected when you say extra pulmonary TB infection. Okay. So how does it spread? As I told you, they're in crowded places, and when proper sanitation is not there, and proper hygiene is not maintained, people spit anywhere. The spitting anywhere is in India. It doesn't happen in foreign countries. They do not spit anywhere they want to. They do not do all this. So this is how it spreads. That is why it is said that it is a disease of poor countries or underdeveloped nations, because proper hygiene is not maintained. People do not maintain sanitation. People do not maintain the clean habits of maintaining a society. So if they cough without covering a mouth, okay, all this is done. You can see this in India, coughing like this. So this is how it spreads. And what are the symptoms? Symptoms are persistent cough, then chest pain because of this cough, then coughing with bloody sputum. Okay, when your cough increases a particular level, it becomes you get blood in your sputum. Okay, when you cough very severely, you finally have blood in the sputum. Then shortness of breath, then urine discoloration, cloudy and reddish urine, fever with chills and fatigue. Okay, so mostly what happens is these symptoms they are similar to other symptoms with other infections also, like you can say a fever and chills and fatigue. Hmm? But initially when you get fever and all this, you cannot guess that it is TB. Okay, cough also, people try to suppress using cough syrup or anything. So you cannot make out in the initial stages it is TB, because fever and cough we generally think it's common, it is flu, we think it's flu. But during the time, in what happens is, as the time passes, this organism multiplies within your lungs, within the whichever organ it has infected, and the infection rate becomes so severe that it becomes difficult to cure. Hmm? Generally cough, fever and all, we think it is a flu. Hmm? But it is not. Sometimes it may be something serious like tuberculosis, and tuberculosis generally is not you cannot it is not diagnosed in the early stages. That is what I'm telling you. Because of fever, fatigue, chills and cough, initially these are only the symptoms, there are no other symptoms. So initially you cannot make out that it is tuberculosis. And so as the time passes, like 15 days or 1 month, and then the organism starts multiplying within your body, then is when your cough increases and you have bloody sputum and shortness of all this comes later. Initially you only have cough and fever which you think, and you try to use cough syrup, but it doesn't kill the organism. This is what happens in case of TB, and then when it is found in the last stages. So the based upon the organs, and it is the types of TB wherever it affects. So these are the different types of TBs. Okay, extra pulmonary TB, then pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay, tuberculosis of the pleuritis, then tuberculosis of the chest, and pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay, so these are the different types of tuberculosis, and what can be the symptoms. What are the symptoms for these tuberculosis. Now, if it is pulmonary tuberculosis, okay, leading to weakness, fever, weight loss. Yeah, in TB, most importantly, what happens is weight loss. Weight loss is one of the major factors which you can say it differs from other fevers and other flus. In normal flu, you don't have weight loss, but in TB, the person loses weight drastically and becomes very lean. That is one of the symptoms which is away from others, weight loss. Okay, so pulmonary tuberculosis leads to poor appetite. That is true. Then weakness, fever, weight loss, and night sweats. Okay. Then if it is a primary pulmonary tuberculosis, you also have the same symptoms: dry cough, you will have some poor appetite and fever and weakness. All these are there. So, symptoms are mostly similar with all types of tuberculosis with one or two changes, but mostly it is fever, it is weakness, it is loss of appetite, and dry cough is there. So those are the symptoms. Then here it is dormant tuberculosis, cough with increasing mucus, coughing up with blood. Hmm? Extrapulmonary. Under extrapulmonary, what are the sites which are affected? I told you in the previous slide what are the sites which are affected under extrapulmonary. So it can be the meninges, it can be the lymph nodes which are affected, it can be the bones, that is skeletal TB. It can be the bones and joints, then it can be genitourinary tract. So it can be any of these. And symptoms will be the same: weakness, fever, weight loss, okay,
Excuse me,
loss
ma'am.
of appetite. So all these will be there. This is about the different types of TB. Now, pathogenesis. How does the organism enter
Ma'am,
your body and how does it
ma'am, you are
multiply
not
within your
audible.
body? Okay, steps in pathogenesis of tuberculosis. Okay, so here it is: as the organism enters,
Ma'am,
exposure
you are
to
not
source.
audible, ma'am.
You are
Anybody
not
is
audible
trying to
to.
enter?
Mm.
You are not audible, ma'am.
What happened? Any problem? Yes, I can't hear your voice, but you all can hear me, no? As far as you can hear me, that is enough. Then it may be problem with your system. Okay. Prashant wants me to go slow. I'm going fast. Generally, I repeat and I'm slow. Asma, Shrija, Pragati, you all can hear me, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, everybody can hear. Yes. Okay. Asma, are you understanding? Is it fast? Asma, is it fast? Are you understanding? Okay. Sahiti, Shrija, are you understanding? Am I going fast? Whatever is common and you all know, only those slides I go fast. Whichever you know. Okay. Those slides which are common to you all know, only there I go fast. Because these are all few basic topics, no? Which you all know. So that is the reason I was okay. As it is, I repeat a slide twice. Okay. Wherever you want me to pause, you just tell. I mean, if you want me to repeat, you tell. I'll repeat. Hmm? Okay. So this is about the steps in pathogenesis of tuberculosis. Okay. So pathogenesis means the how it enters your body and how it affects, how it starts moving around and starts as damage. Okay. So here it is as it enters aerosolization of droplet nuclei. Okay. So once the droplet nuclei comes out of your mouth, like when you spit, when you cough, when you sneeze, like not you, a tuberculosis patient. Okay, when a tuberculosis patient coughs, sneezes, or spits, so those droplets which come out, aerosolization of those droplets, then inhalation. So the next person standing in front, okay, the next person standing in front inhales that. So if it reaches, okay, reaches the lungs, so this is what happens if it reaches, and no infection. If it has not reached any source, there is no infection. But if it reaches the lungs, it enters the macrophages. Okay, bacteria multiply in macrophages, we know that. They multiply in macrophages, and granulomatous lesion begins to form. Okay, granulomatous lesion begins to form. Now, what happens is bacteria cease to grow, lesion calcifies, then lesion liquefies, and bacteria coughed up in sputum. Hmm? So these are the things what happens after there is granulomatous lesion begins to form. Now once the bacteria enters your macrophages, okay, it either it can enter or it does not enter. If it does not enter, no infection, okay. But if it enters the lungs, it reaches the macrophages, okay, and then once it reaches the macrophages, it starts multiplying there. Hmm? It starts multiplying there, and then once it multiplies, it starts forming lesions inside. Okay, it starts forming lesions inside. Then now bacteria cease to grow, lesion calcifies, there is immune suppression. Okay, your immune system is in function over here. In this case, your immune system is in function. Okay, in this case it is not. Here it is leading to death. But here, if your immune system is working enough, okay, immune suppression, reactivation, and again the cycle goes on, okay, like this. So what happens in some cases, see, when a person coughs or sneezes, not everybody comes up with tuberculosis. Okay, that is when they're said to be carriers. That is when they're said to be carriers, when they do not show any symptoms. They do not show any symptom, but they still carry the organism within them. Okay, all of us will be having this organism within us. Okay, because Mycobacterium tuberculosis is so widely spread, and the crowd in which we move, like the shopping malls, they're so crowded, the markets are so crowded, and there are so many, like buses, you all travel in buses, they are so crowded. So there is a chance that the organism is in the air throughout. Okay, there is 100% chance that the organism is in air. But not everybody comes up with the symptoms. Okay, not everybody comes up with the symptoms because you're depending upon the immune system. Okay, depending upon the immune system, and uh, and the person's age, all these matters. Okay, and the amount of bacteria which you have inhaled, that also matters. Okay, the amount of droplet nuclei and bacteria you have taken in, so that also plays an important role. Hmm? So you may be inhaling, no doubt, as it is in air, it is 70% of the population is actually affected with tuberculosis. Okay, so it is surely there, it is in air and we are having the organism within us, but the rate is less because of your immune system. Okay, your immune system is capable of suppressing it. Your immune system suppresses it, and reactivation leading to again the cycle goes on. And sometimes it just stays within you, and it doesn't multiply because of your high immune suppression. Now, if if the bacteria was successful in multiplying, the lesion liquefies and spreads to blood and different organs. Okay, leading to death. And same, if the organism is there, it is coughed up in the sputum. Okay, so this is what happens if your immune system is not able to suppress the organism. Okay, it will spread to blood and different organs of your body, and it will affect the different organs of your body. And of course, when you cough, it comes up in the sputum. Okay, so it is infectious again. So I hope this slide is clear. Hmm? Shall I go to the next slide, or you all want me to repeat? The slide is clear. You want me to repeat? Did you understand? Pragati, Prashant, shall I go to the next slide? Okay. Okay. So now this was about the pathogenesis. This is about the types of tuberculosis. Okay, different types of tuberculosis. As I told you all, it is pulmonary TB. It is extra pulmonary TB. Pulmonary, I told you, it involves the pulmonary organs of your body. Okay. Now, and the other one is extra pulmonary. Extra pulmonary, I told you all the different organs other than the pulmonary organs which are affected by mycobacterium, or can be affected by mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, so under pulmonary you have primary tuberculosis and secondary tuberculosis. So primary is the infection of an individual who has not been previously infected. So when you're getting infected for the first time, it is called as primary tuberculosis or Gons complex or childhood tuberculosis. Hmm? So, lesions forming after infection is peripheral and accompanied by hilare, which may not be detectable on chest radiography. So, initially, even chest radiography doesn't show the symptoms. Okay, those lesions, even initially, they cannot be seen in the chest radiography also. But what is secondary infection? Okay, secondary infection, I hope you'll understand by now. Secondary infection is you're infected and after some time you again get infected. Okay, so that is called as secondary infection. Like sometimes you get fever, you recover. This you know that you get fever, you recover, and after some days or 15 days or a month you again fall sick. Okay, so that is called as secondary infection. So that the organism is already within your body and it again comes up, again get infected, or you again get infected through some outer source. So that is secondary infection. So see this, individual who has been previously infected or sensitized is called secondary or post primary or reinfection or chronic tuberculosis. Okay, so when you get infected for the Second time it is called as chronic tuberculosis. Hmm? Okay. Then extrapulmonary. Okay, extrapulmonary. It is the different organs. I told you 20% of patients of TB patient affected sites in body are. So mostly it is pulmonary, but these cases also come up. Like you can see pleural TB, okay. Then you can see lymph node TB, or you can see genitourinary tract is infected sometimes. So intestinal TB. So these cases are also there, but they are only 20% of the overall cases of TB. So, in lymph node, what happens when it is affecting the lymph node? Painless swelling of lymph nodes, most commonly at cervical and supraclavicle, okay, scrofula. Systemic systems are limited to HIV infected patients, okay. So, when it is lymph node tuberculosis, it there is swelling, painless swelling of lymph nodes, okay, at the cervical and supraclavicle portion. So this is when it is lymph node. Then pleural TB. Involvement of pleura is common in primary TB and results from penetration of tubercle into pleural space. Okay, so this gets into the pleural space that of the lungs. Pleura is the outer covering of the lungs. Okay. Then a TB of the upper respiratory tract, upper airways, involves larynx, pharynx, and epiglottis. Symptoms are dysphagia, chronic productive cough. This comes under upper airways, upper respiratory tract that involves larynx, pharynx, and epiglottis. Okay. Then genitourinary TB, what happens is it is 15% of all the other parts. I mean, the chances are only 15% that a person gets a genitourinary, but it though cases are found. Symptoms are urinary frequency, dysuria, hematuria. These are the symptoms of genitourinary TB. Skeletal TB, involvement of weight bearing parts like spine, hip, knee. So these bones are affected. When it is skeletal TB, it is the spine, hip, and knee which is affected. Hmm? Then symptoms for this is pain in the joints, knees, swelling of knees, and trauma. So when it is the bones, it can be it is generally the pains in the bones of these parts. So this is rarely diagnosed, very late diagnosed, because see, pain in the hip joints and all these are common factors which we just ignore, thinking that it is some vitamin D definition, etc. But it can be TB also, because the symptoms are very similar. But you will be having weight loss and you will be having loss of appetite and fever, but it is difficult to make out actually. Hmm? Then gastrointestinal TB. Okay, when it's affecting the intestinal tract. When it affects the intestinal tract, it is gastrointestinal TB. And parts affected are abdominal, I mean symptoms, abdominal pain, diarrhea, weight loss. Okay. So symptoms are where you have diarrhea and weight loss and abdominal pain. Okay. So this is about the gastrointestinal TB. Then you have the meningitis. I told you it can be meningeal TB also. 5% of extrapulmonary TB cases. Okay, but it you have, they say 5%, but there are many cases of tuberculous meningitis. I have done my PhD work on tuberculous meningitis. I have worked for tuberculous meningitis for my PhD work. My topic was tuberculosis. So almost near to 1,000 and above samples of CSF I have worked for the diagnosis of tuberculosis. Okay. So I was working in a hospital which I used to get samples of CSF from. Uh, so I could get many samples of tuberculosis patient because I was associated with the hospital. That was a lucky part of my work. Or else it's not easy to get samples from hospital and patient samples for work. Because my lab was with a research hospital, I used to get every day almost 10, 15 samples. So that is how it was, like more than 1,000 samples of tuberculosis meningitis have worked on. Okay. So then it is TB pericarditis, 1 to 8% chances of getting TB pericarditis. Then spreads mainly in mediastinal or hilar nodes of from the lungs. Then miliary or disseminated TB results from hematogenous spread of tubercle bacilli. Spread is due to entry of infection into pulmonary vein. Okay, producing lesions in different extrapulmonary sites. So in this case, what happens is it is because of the infection of pulmonary vein, and their lesions are formed in different extrapulmonary sites. Then less common ones are the uveitis, phantomatitis, painful hypersensitivity related satellular conjunctivitis. So these are the different parts which can be affected, but very less chances of these parts getting affected. So all these come under extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Hmm? I hope you all have understood what is pulmonary, what is extrapulmonary TB, and under extrapulmonary you have lymph node. It can be pleural TB, which can be TB of the upper airways, can be TB of genitourinary tract, can be skeletal where the bones are affected, can be gastrointestinal, okay, can be meningeal, can be pericarditis, can be miliary or disseminated, and the other parts which are rarely affected are also listed over here. Hmm? Then coming to diagnosis, how do we diagnose? It is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So as I told you, because of the mycolic acid and waxy coating of the bacterial cell wall, you cannot do the regular staining. Okay, you cannot do it. It has to be done. There is Zeal-Nielsen stain, acid-fast staining. The procedure is called as acid-fast staining because you use concentrated H2SO4 in this. You use concentrated H2SO4, and that is why it is called as acid fast staining, and Zeal-Nielsen stain it is called, which is used to stain the bacteria. And you can see pink colored rods. Mycobacterium looks like pink colored rods after acid fast staining. Then you have the fluorescence microscopy. Fluorescence microscopy, that is, you will have use the fluorescence dye, that is auramine stain. Auramine stain is a fluorescent dye which can be used. So you observe the fluorescence. Okay, when you use a fluorescent dye, you observe the fluorescence under microscope. Then sputum culture. So this was about the microscopic, then sputum culture. Now, whenever you're studying diseases, I told you all you have to do around 5 to 6. In fact, your third and fourth unit is full of diseases. Okay, if you all have seen the syllabus, so whenever you get any disease in your exam, you will first write about the organism. Okay, you will write about the organism. Then you have to write about the spread, pathogenesis, how it spreads. Okay, then you have to write about the symptoms, of course. And then coming to diagnosis part, when it comes to diagnosis part, always remember, there is a protocol of writing it, and there is a method of remembering it. Actually, there is a method of remembering when you write diagnosis in your exam. See, always first comes the microscopic test. Your microscopic test is the first to write, then the culture. Okay, then is the culturing. That is, all these comes under microbiological. But microscopic, then you have to write about the culture test, how you will culture, which medium is used to culture this organism. Now every organism has a specific medium, as we say, selective medium. So when we are doing for diagnosis, when we are nutrient agar is the common one, but when we are working on diagnosis, you use specific selective mediums for every organism. Okay, like for salmonella, if it is typhoid, for cholera, for syphilis, for everything you have different specific mediums which are called as selective mediums, and on that only those organism will grow. Okay, so for every organism you need to remember which culture media is used. Okay, and on that basis you can write. So first is microscopy, then you have to write culture, then you have to write, after culturing comes the biochemical, then comes the serological tests, then comes the molecular test. Okay, so these are the steps you have to, this is common So you have to remember it. And the same thing you can write for every organism, just changing the culture name and that. But the pattern will be same. First microscopic, you have to write in diagnosis, then you have to write culture, then you have to write about the uh, serological test, then you have to write about the molecular test. Okay, serological is where you use the antigen and antibodies. Molecular is when you use the do the diagnosis depending upon the DNA level. Okay, so here for Mycobacterium, it is LJ medium. Hmm? I told you it takes a lot of time to grow, 4 weeks to 18 weeks also. Then liquid medium to 8 to 14 days. Agar medium 7 to 14 days. But LJ medium is the one which is used for growing Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now, in case of tuberculosis, you also have the chest X-ray, okay, radiography and chest X-ray, which shows you the level of infection in the lungs. You can see the difference in this. There are two chest X-rays, one of an healthy patient, one of a patient with tuberculosis. Okay, so healthy patient, it will mostly the X-ray will be clear, but in case of tuberculosis, the white portion will be more. Okay, the you can see this picture is still better, but when the lungs are badly affected, the white portion becomes more. Over here also it will be white. Here they have shown little bit, but actually it's more when the lungs are badly affected. All this, instead of black, you will be seeing white. Over here also you will see white. If the lungs are badly affected, it will all be white. More of white portion, in fact. Hmm? The X-ray shows like that. Wherever it is infected, the X-ray shows like that. So depending upon the chest X-ray, only you can make out what is the level of the infection, how bad it is. This also works in case of corona. Okay, in case of corona also chest X-ray is done, and it shows you. That's what I told you. The white portion, it shows you how much of the lungs have been damaged. Okay, so chest X-ray, CT scan of the chest, they say, is very important case of corona also, because it shows you the damaged part. How much of the lungs is damaged? It shows white. Then is the nucleic acid amplification. Okay, it is species identification. Low sensitivity nucleic acid, as we know, it is the PCR based test. Hmm? The molecular test, what we all do. So it is low sensitivity, but cost is very high. Of PCR test, and wherever you go for doing getting the PCR test, the cost is very high. Then it is useful for rapid confirmation of tuberculosis in persons with AFB positive. Okay, AFB means that is acid fast bacteria. That is acid fast staining when they do AFB positive, they say. So it is the sputum which is taken for staining in this case. Okay, in this case, it is the sputum which is taken for staining, or culturing also sputum is taken. So AFB negative pulmonary tuberculosis, it can be also used in extra pulmonary tuberculosis. Then this is the tuberculin skin test. Have you all heard about this? I don't know if you all have heard about this, but it was it was used in a decade ago, we can say, but now it is all PCR based. It whatever we do is PCR based nowadays, but a decade ago this was also done. What do? They injection of fluid into the skin of the lower arm. Okay, injection of this PPD, purified protein derivative. It is called as purified protein derivative, PPD. So it is the purified protein derivative of the organism itself. Okay, it is a purified protein derivative of the organism which is injected into the skin, and they check for this formation of the circle formation. 48 to 72 hours later, checked for reaction. Diagnosis is based on the size of the wheal. So more bigger the size, they will say more bigger is the infection rate. Okay, more bigger the size, bigger is the infection rate. Then um, so here it shows you how it is injected. Then here it is another image that the injection goes beneath, and you can see the tuberculin wheel. Here it is. So they measure the diameter of the circle. Now, after 48 to 72 hours, they look in for this formation of this circle. This shows that it is positive test. It shows positive test, and it shows the diameter is measured to know the intensity of the infection. Okay, the bigger the circle, the more the infection. So this scale is used to measure the rate of infection. Okay. After 48 to 72 hours, this kind of circular formation will be there because of the reaction of the mycobacterium within your body and this one in the injection. Okay. Now, how do we interpret it? Tuberculin test interpretation. So this is the diameter. I told you they measure the diameter of this wheel of reaction. So if it is less than 6 mm or greater but less than 15 mm, and if it is more than 15 mm, that is the diameter of the circle which is formed after 48 to 72 hours. Huh? So if it is less than 6 mm, it is negative. Okay, your tuberculin skin test is negative. Previously unvaccinated individuals may be given BCG provided there are no contradictions. Okay, so if the person is not vaccinated, you can give him BCG. Then BCG, I hope you all know the full form. Bacillus calmette-guerin. Okay, Bacillus calmette-guerin is the full form for BCG. Then if the diameter of the circle is 6 mm or greater than or less than 15 mm. Okay, so if it is between 6 mm and 15 mm, okay, if the diameter falls between 6 mm and 15 mm, it is hypersensitive to tuberculin protein, may be due to previous TB infection. Okay, this can be a previous TB infection, like I told you, secondary infection. In such cases, the organism still is there in your blood, so this may occur. And BCG or exposure to atypical mycobacteria. So if you have been exposed to any vaccine or any typical bacteria before, you form this kind of circle 6 mm to 15 mm, between 6 and 15. So he should not be given BCG. Now, if the size of the diameter of the wheel is more than 15 mm, okay, if the diameter is more than 15 mm, strongly hypersensitive to tuberculin protein. It is strongly hypersensitive to tuberculin protein, suggestive of TB infection. Okay, so here the person is considered as he is infected with TB. Should not be given BCG. Refer for further investigation and supervision. So he has to be started with treatment. At this stage, you cannot give vaccine when you are already infected. You may be knowing in case of corona also, you're not given the vaccine if you have come out of corona. Almost for 3 months they don't give vaccine. After recovery also, till 3 months
Yes.
they do not give vaccine. And they don't give vaccine when you are under any infection. So when he is already having TB infection, at this stage vaccine will not work. At this stage you have to do the treatment. Okay, you have to give the treatment at this stage. Okay. I hope it is clear. The skin test is clear. Did you all understand the skin test? Less than 6 mm, negative, between 6 mm and 15 mm. It is that it could be due to any previous infection or BCG vaccine if the person has taken in past, and more than 15 mm. It is strongly positive. Did you all understand this tuberculin skin test? Asma, did you understand? Asma, Sahiti. Okay. 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 We'll take a break of 5 minutes and start. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll join back in 5 minutes, huh? I hope you all are back. Sai Prashant, Sai Prashant, where did you go in between? You disappear. You were not there when I was taking class now. What happened? Last class also you were not there. You join and then you leave in between. What happened? Not interested in classes? Class is still 1 o'clock. I thought if I finish tuberculosis, I will start with. Before that, also. Okay. Sai Prashant, before that, also, you join and you left. Complete 1 2 hours, you are never there. You join and you leave. I don't know. What about Indu and other girls of your batch? Your CR? Yes, last class you were absent, and before that, when you join and you left again. Most of the times you do that. You join and you leave. Okay, I'll see from now. Your CR, क्या नाम है उसका? Your CR? He doesn't come to classes. I forgot his name. He hardly comes for classes. I'm seeing the text box, everything. Vamshi. Vamshi doesn't come for classes. Okay. Asma, are you back? Akshaya, Pragati, Sahiti, are you all there? Okay, I'll start. If I finish tuberculosis, shall I start with syphilis? Hmm? Okay. So we were, I think, in this slide. Hmm? We have done the tuberculin test interpretation, and after this was a slide where we. I hope it's clear till here to all of you. Okay. So this is how it works. How does it happen? No? Pathogenesis of tuberculin skin test. So this is the antigen. It has entered your body. Hmm? This is hypersensitivity reaction, which shows is the hypersensitivity reaction. Hmm? So if already the antibodies are present in your body, okay, if he is an already infected person, if he is a tuberculosis patient, okay, he will already, his body will already have the antibodies. His body will already have the antibodies if it is a tuberculosis patient. Huh? So this is what in case when the circle is more, the size or diameter of the wheel is more. It is in case of tuberculosis patients because of the reactivity between the antigen and antibody. Okay, it is because of the reaction between the antigen and antibody that the diameter of the wheel is more. So here it is, as it enters the body, it faces the dendritic cells and the T cells. Then there is release of cytokine secretion, and then the macrophages recruitment of PMN, polymorphonuclear cells, leading to swelling and cellular infiltrate. Okay, so it is an hypersensitivity reaction. We have studied hypersensitivity in your last semester. You have done this cascade of complement system also. When an antigen enters your body, what happens? This you have studied in your last semester. You have studied hypersensitivity also. So this is type 4 hypersensitivity, what you see over here. Then you have other biological tests which are done to diagnose tuberculosis, that is the cell count, then the protein test, okay, for ascites, pleural infusion, and meningitis. Okay, if it is an ascites, pleural, or meningeal infection, they do the protein tests. Here we were doing about the different tests which are done to diagnose tuberculosis. Okay, you have done first bacteriological test, then you have under which you have Zeal Nielsen stain and fluorescence staining. Then you have done sputum culture, that is LJ medium and other mediums also, but mostly LJ medium is the favorable medium for growth of mycobacterium. Then it is the chest which is done, okay, chest X-ray which is done. Then it is the nucleic acid amplification which is done, and then it is the tuberculin skin test which is done to diagnose TB. Then it is the other test under which you have cell count and protein tests. Okay, so there are almost 6 parameters which are done to diagnose TB. Now, what are the preventive measures? Okay, what are the preventive measures? Is you need to wear a mask, that is you all are aware of, because it is an airborne diseases. All the airborne diseases, to get to prevent it, you need to wear a mask. Then vaccination, as you all know, vaccination is very important. And then medical follow up, regular follow up. Then isolation, whoever the patient, tuberculosis patient is, he has to be isolated, or else he will spread the disease, okay, because it is contagious. Then ventilation, then proper sunlight, and UV germicidal irradiation. So all these are important measures to prevent the spread of the disease. So here you can see personal hygiene, as I told you all, is very important. Immunization is important, and healthy lifestyle, that is eating healthy vegetables, proper sleep, proper sanitation. All these are very important for prevention of tuberculosis. Hmm? Then BCG vaccine. When you come to BCG vaccine, it is Bacillus calmette guerin. I told you Bacillus calmette guerin, and was first used in 1921. That is for that is the only available vaccine even today for tuberculosis. It is most effective in children, and duration of protection is 15 to 20 years. Okay, so once taken, you're protected for 15 to 20 years. Efficacy is up to 80%. And should be given to all healthy infants as soon as they are birth. So they generally give BCG vaccine. You have heard about, all of you have heard about BCG vaccine. And when the child is born, there is a list of vaccines which are to be given, and BCG is among the first priority list vaccines which is given. Hmm? So management, okay, the drugs which are used, the first line drugs, most common ones which are used is isoniazid, rifampin, rifapentine, rifabutin, ethambutol, pyrazinamide. Okay, and the second line of drugs which can be used are cycloserine, ethonamide, levofloxacin, moxifloxacin, gatifloxacin, p-aminosalicylic acid, streptomycin, kanamycin, and kepramycin. So this is the second line of drugs. If you can remember this, good. But at least the first line of drugs you should remember. In case of tuberculosis, at least this main five: isoniazid, rifampin, rifampentine, rifabutin, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide. Okay, at least these we should remember for first line of drugs management of tuberculosis. If you can remember the second line, well and good. But this, at least this, in your exams, you need to write that. Now this is the mode of action. Okay, MOA means mode of action. I think we have done in the second unit, no, mode of action of drugs. I've done for you all, or I don't for second years. I don't remember because your syllabus is almost similar. Final year syllabus of sixth semester and fourth semester syllabus very similar. But I think we have done mode of action of drugs. I think I've done for second years. Still you may be having an idea. Mode of action is how the drug works. Okay, in which part of the bacteria does the drug affect? Okay, which part of bacteria does the drug work on? So isoniazid, it inhibits the mycolic acid synthesis. Hmm? Now, rifampicin, if you're using it, blocks the RNA synthesis by blocking DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Okay, so different drugs have different action. Okay, when you're using drugs, and any case of any disease, any infection, different drugs have different mode of action. So they will affect the bacteria in different ways so that the bacteria is killed and doesn't multiply any further. So isoniazid inhibits the mycolic acid synthesis. So you can understand how important it is. Mycolic acid being the outer covering of the cell wall of the bacterial cell, it is the main layer which protects the cell from antibiotics. Okay, it is the layer which protects the cells from antibiotics. So if mycolic acid synthesis itself is stopped, okay, if mycolic acid synthesis stopped, then it helps the penetration of antibiotic into the cell. Okay, it helps in the penetration of antibiotic in the cell, and so it can, the drug can work, it can give its results. Okay, so rifampicin blocks RNA synthesis by blocking DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Okay, so this is how rifampicin works. Then pyrazinamide, bactericidal. There are two types of drugs, bactericidal and bacteriostatic. I have done with you all, I don't remember. I have taken for second years, bactericidal and bacteriostatic. So when the drugs are bactericidal means they kill the bacteria. When the drugs are bacteriostatic means they stop the growth of the bacteria. Okay. So there's a list of drugs which are bactericidal, which are bacteriostatic. So if you use the bacteriostatic drugs, they stop the growth. Hmm? And if you use bactericidal drugs, they will kill the bacteria. So this pyrazinamide is bactericidal. Okay, slowly metabolizing organism within acidic environment of phagocyte or caseous granuloma. So this pyrazinamide, what does it do? It acts as a bactericidal and it slowly metabolizing organism within acidic environment of phagocyte or caseous granuloma. Hmm? So here it affects the metabolism of the organism. Then static, that was sidal. Pyrazinamide was sidal. Now this is static, which inhibits the growth. Ethambutol is static, which inhibits the growth. Inhibition of, how does it inhibit? It inhibition of arabinosyl transferase. Okay, it leads to inhibition of arabinosyl transferase. Now, here, as your topic is the disease and not the mode of action, we need not go into details of this mode of action. If your topics were mode of action of the drug, you can go into detail of how it works. But because you're studying on tuberculosis, you need to study of the spread, the pathogenesis, the organism, the diagnosis, and the prevention and treatment. And under prevention and treatment, you're studying these drugs. Okay, under prevention and treatment, you're studying these drugs, in which if you know the drugs and if you know the mode of action, that is enough. So these details you need not go into. One minute. Hello. Oh, hello. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So then coming to streptomycin, okay? Streptomycin, inhibition of protein synthesis by disruption of ribosomal function. Okay, so what does streptomycin do? It inhibits the protein synthesis by disruption of ribosomal function. So you can understand how important it is. It is inhibiting the protein synthesis. Okay, this is ethambutol is bacteriostatic. It will stop the growth of bacteria. Then parazinamide will kill the bacteria. Hmm? Then rifampicin blocks the RNA synthesis, and isoniazid inhibits mycolic acid. So using these various drugs, you stop the growth of bacteria, you kill the bacteria within the body. Okay, so this is how these drugs work. Now, as we know, every drug has its own side effects, and especially TB drugs are given for 6 months or so. Other diseases, it is 1 month, 2 months. Mostly, it is 1 month, 2 month maximum if it's cholera or typhoid, also the medication. But in case of TB, the medication is given for 6 months. Okay, so that the organism doesn't multiply within your body. Even if few number of organisms are left within your body, there are chances that they go multiply in some other organ and affect some other organ of your body, because it is in your blood. It spreads throughout your body and it can affect any part of your body. So that is the reason it is treatment is given for 6 months. So these drugs are taken for 6 months. So you can imagine the amount of side effects it may have on your health. Hmm? So rifampin leads to rash, liver disinfection, flu-like syndrome, red-orange urine, and drug interactions. So these are the side effects of rifampin. Hmm? Then isoniazid has side effects of fever, chills, hepatitis. Pyrazinamide has side effects of peripheral neuritis, optic neuritis, seizures, hepatitis. Then ethambutol has side effect of hyperuricemia and optic neuritis. Okay, so you need to monitor the uric acid levels for this. Then streptomycin, amikacin, and capromycin, ototoxicity and renal toxicity. So it can lead to renal toxicity. And how you can manage these drug side effects. Okay, so mostly this is for your information. Like every drug has its own side effects. So these are the side effects of every drug. Now dosage and all, this is for your knowledge. Okay, I don't think you all can remember these, but this is the dosage which is given for TB patients. Then, as recommended by WHO, these are the main drugs: isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, and streptomycin. Okay, HRZES. So these are the main drugs which are used, recommended by WHO. DOTS treatment, you all have heard or not, I don't know. It is very common. Uh, It is a short course of treatment which is given to TB patients. Okay, DOT means directly observed treatment. Okay, DOT, the full form is dot directly treat observed treatment, and it is a short course treatment. So means that a trained healthcare worker individual provides the prescribed drugs and watches the patient swallow every dose. Okay, this is the treatment which is given for TB. Dots treatment, directly observed treatment. Okay, and now coming to multi-drug resistant TB. This is the major concern everywhere nowadays, which has come up, known as MDR TB. I don't, if you all are aware, I don't know. It is very common everywhere now, and this is a topic of concern. MDR TB, and not only in case of TB, but other diseases also, which have come up with the problem of MDR, that is multiple drug resistance. Now, what has happened is we have been using these drugs for several decades now. All the drugs prescribed by WHO, this isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, these have been used for decades. I should say so many decades now. But now these strains of tuberculosis have become resistant to these drugs. Okay, the mycobacterium strains now have become resistant. Now see, it is mycobacterium is being transferred from person to person. Okay, is it contagious, being transferred from one person to another into the society? But as they are, these strains are being treated with the same drug for several decades. Okay, as these strains have been treated with the same drug for decades, now they have become resistant to these drugs. Okay, so resistant, so even if you're giving these drugs, the patient is not responding. Okay, even if you're giving these drugs to the patient is not responding because it has developed into an MDR TB, and the strains of mycobacterium have become resistant to these drugs. Okay, so they are not able to cure the disease. They have become drug resistance. So that is the reason now you have to come up with new drugs which will be effective against TB. So here they say it is assistant to isoniazid and rifampicin, the most effective anti-TB drugs. So globally, 3.6 are estimated to have MDR TB, not 3.6, it's more actually. Almost 50% of MDR TB cases worldwide are estimated to occur in China and India. Okay, that is because originally the number of TB cases are more in Asian parts. I told you initially, I was telling you that originally the Asian part of the world is more affected with TB. That is why now when you have facing MDR TB also, it is these parts of the world which are more affected with MDR TB, because only in this part the drug has been used maximum. Okay, the drug has been extensively used in the Asian part. So now even MDR TB is most found here only because of this, as we are using this since decades. Okay, extensively drug resistance. Okay, so one more, it's like XDR, not only MDR, now XDR is also come up, that is extensively drug resistance, is a form of TB caused by bacteria that are resistant to isoniazid and rifampicin, as well as fluoroquinol and any of the second line anti-TB injectable drugs. You understand? So not only isoniazid and rifampicin, these strains are resistant to the second line of drugs also. When I was explaining you drugs, I showed you the first line and the second line of drugs, if you all remember. So this XDR-TB are those strains which are resistant to second line of drugs also. It's anything of ambicacin, kanamycin, capromycin, can be any of these. Okay, and as we all know, I hope you're aware of that tuberculosis comes up with HIV, and HIV comes up with tuberculosis. They are mostly common together because in both the systems, the immune system is not, in both the diseases, the immune system is not working. Okay, the immune system has given up. So, as you know, HIV patients, their immune system they don't function properly. They do not produce antibodies against any disease. Hmm? So HIV patient, when he comes in contact with the tubercle bacilli, the patient is not able to, the immune system is not able to come up. Okay, so the patient suffers with tuberculosis. Hmm? And in case of tuberculosis, also the immune system has gone so down that he tries to take multiple infections, and that is HIV comes up first in line. Hmm? So HIV and tuberculosis go together. Worldwide, people infected with both HIV and TB is rising. HIV virus damages the immune system and accelerates which TB progresses from a harmless infection to a life-threatening condition. Okay, the estimated 10% activation of dormant TB infection over the lifespan is increased to 10% activation in 1 year, and it is opportunistic infection that most frequently kills HIV positive people. Okay, so as I told you, HIV positive, their immune, the body damages the HIV virus damages the immune system, and because immune system is damaged, and once the patient comes through any infection, okay, any disease, tubercle bacilli or any other bacilli, he is not able to overcome it, and so he gets infected fast. Hmm? So this is how HIV and tuberculosis go along. Then this is the epidemiological impact. So reactivation of latent infection, primary infection, and recurring infection. Hmm? Recurring means where you already had an infection and again you get infected. It is called recurring infection. Primary is a new infection. When your first time you get infected with TB, it is called primary infection. Hmm? With HIV can progress to active disease. Then reactivation of latent infection. So people who are infected with both HIV and TB are more likely to develop TB again than people only infected with TB. You understand? So if the patient is having HIV and TB, so he has chances of developing TB again than the patient who is only having TB. I hope you understand the difference, because if he is having HIV, his immune system is down. So he has chances of getting TB, developing TB again, as compared to the person who has only TB. Only TB, he can still come out of it, but HIV and TB, he cannot come out of it. Okay? Okay. I hope you all have understood. Tuberculosis. I hope everything is clear about tuberculosis. Hmm? What you have to answer, Sahiti, Pragati, Akshaya. Sai Prashant is there or again left? I cannot see you on screen here. That is why I'm asking Sai Prashant. I hope you understood tuberculosis. You want me to go through the slides once again? I'll go through the slides for y'all. Just go through, brush up through the slides so that uh, it's only 12:45. You just brush up through the slides so that you all can recollect everything. Okay, as I told you all, these are the different species: Mycobacterium african, Mycoti, leprae, avium, hmm? And the main causal organism is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It has a complex of Africanum, bovis, Caneti, and Microti. Okay. Then found out in 1882 by Robert Koch, forms nodules and swellings. If it is infected in humans, it is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. If infection in animals, it is bovis, right? Then I told you all gram positive, non-spawn forming, non-motile, mesophile cell wall is made up of mycolic acid, waxy layer of mycolic acid. Okay, extrapulmonary and pulmonary tuberculosis classified into pulmonary and extrapulmonary. Extrapulmonary means infection in different organs of the body. Hmm? Pulmonary means the pulmonary organs of the body. Okay, here it is lymph node, pleura. It can affect the skeletal, it can affect the genitourinary tract, miliary, pericardial, gastrointestinal, tuberculous meningitis, and other organs of the body. Okay, then this is how it spreads. Then symptoms I told you: cough, chest pain, bloody sputum, shortness of breath, urine discoloration, cloudy and reddish urine, fever with chills and fatigue. Then these are the different symptoms depending upon the different types of tuberculosis, different symptoms. Pathogenesis. I hope you all understood the pathogenesis part. Hmm? It enters the body, I mean, it's exposure to source, then aerosolization, then inhalation of bacteria, reaches the macrophages, multiplies in macrophages, granulomatous lesions, and the sees bacteria sees growth, or lesion liquefies, or bacteria coughed up by sputum. Okay, so it is again, it goes out by sputum. So here it is. If here is immune suppression, there is reactivation of the bacteria. Okay, if your immune system is strong enough, there is reactivation of bacteria and the cycle follows. Then if your immune system is down, it spreads into the blood and different organs of the body, leading to death. Okay, then primary, pulmonary, and extrapulmonary. Under pulmonary, you have primary tuberculosis and secondary tuberculosis. Okay, secondary is when you have the infection again for the second time, you get that infection. Primary is for the first time, you're getting infected for the first time, has not previously been infected or immunized. Okay, then these are the different parts and the symptoms. Hmm? Okay, then diagnosis, I told you bacteriological, sputum, culture में LJ, moidium, you have to remember. Then bacterial staining, it is Zeal-Nielsen staining or acid-fast staining. It's called as Zeal-Nielsen staining or acid-fast staining. Then auramine stain when fluorescence is used for microscopic observations. Zeal-Nielsen acid-fast, I told you it's called acid-fast because concentrated H2SO4 is used, which penetrates the cell wall. Hmm? And chest X-ray, I've explained you all. If it is more infected, the white region is more. Okay. Then nucleic acid, that is where you use your DNA for diagnosis. Hmm? Most useful for the rapid confirmation of tuberculosis patient. Utility: AFP negative pulmonary tuberculosis and extrapulmonary tuberculosis can also be examined with the help of this. Then you can do the tuberculin skin test to find out if you all are infected or not. You can do the tuberculin skin test. But generally, people are not much, this is not much acceptable because people get scared of getting injected any PPD into their body. Hmm? So, but this was a standard method at, around 2 decades ago. It was a standard method, tuberculin skin test. Now you have many PCR and DNA tests to find out the positivity of the disease, but around 2 decades ago, this was very commonly used. Hmm? And mainly the cost effectiveness. PCR and all, if you do, it will go to thousands, but these skin tests are very cost effective. Hmm? Then the interpretation I told you, depending upon the diameter of the circle diameter, it is found out if it's positive test or negative test. So diameter, if more than less than 6 mm, it is negative. Between 6 mm and 15 mm, anything, it may be due to previous infection. It may be due to previous infection or vaccination. Even if you have taken vaccination, you tend to react. No, so that is why. So for these patients, should not be given vaccine. Should not be given. Then for the diameter, if it's more than 15 mm, okay, if the diameter is more than 15 mm, it is strongly tuberculosis positive, and you have to start the treatment immediately. You cannot give vaccination at this stage. You have to do the treatment immediate. Okay, so this is the pathogenesis. Then preventive measures, what all you need to do: mask, vaccination, isolation of patient, ventilation, sunlight, and UV germicide irradiation. All these are important preventive measures. Okay, and I told you the vaccine is Bacillus calmette urine, first used in 1921. So you can imagine it was found in 1882. Mycobacterium found in 1882, and vaccine was found in 1921. So only vaccine available today for protection against tuberculosis. I told you all, and it gives protection for 15 to 20 years. Once taken, you're 15 to 20 years, you're protected. Efficacy 80%. First line of drugs and second line of drugs, I've told you. Try to remember. If not this, at least remember isoniazid, rifampin, rifampentine, rifampicin, ethambutol, and pyrazimide. Okay, you can get this question anywhere, so remember this. Then these are the mode of actions of different drugs. Isoniazid inhibits mycolic acid synthesis. Rifampicin blocks RNA. Pyrazinamide bactericidal. Ethambutol bacteriostatic, and streptomycin inhibition of protein. Okay, then side effects of every drug. Then these are the drug dosages. Common drugs which are used. Then the DOTS treatment, where the medical worker sits and sees to it that you take every medicine. So DOTS full form is directly observed treatment. Directly observed treatment. That is a short course one. I explained you all about multiple drug resistance, extensive drug resistance, where other than the first line, the strain is also resistant to the second line of drugs. Okay, not only the first line of drugs, it is resistant to the second line of drugs also. It's called as extensively drug resistance, XDR. Hmm? Then this also I have explained to you. Okay. Okay. I hope everything is clear about tuberculosis. Any doubts? Any doubts you all can ask me. I thought I'll start with syphilis, but we hardly left with any time. Are you all free after lunch? Are you all, or in the next class? That will be next week. I think Monday I will take. Okay. You all have classes after the lunch also? Yeah, we'll be sharing PPTs. Sir have put the PPTs online. I think he sent the link also. So we'll be sharing PPTs over here in our classroom, G classroom also, and he will send links also. Okay. And by the way, you'll start studying for your exams. Mostly July you will have exams. You will be informed regarding everything. Thank you. If you all have understood today's class, I'll end. Thank you.